do we finally know who Brock Purdy is? I mean, we're deep into his second full season. Played a little bit as a rookie. He's been in 6 playoff games, and he shred the Bears. Do we know who Brock Purdy is now? Are you ever surprised?
I don't think he's played in 43 total games, including the postseason. So 37 regular season, 43 games. It's like 14 games per year on average. So it's basically, I've always said you need 2 or 3 years with most players, especially a quarterback, to decide, like, to really get a clear picture of who they are. We've seen Brock Purdy in all different kinds of situations, with the Avengers, without the Avengers, with Debo, without, with CMC, without. I think now we have a clear picture of who Brock Purdy is. It's been 43 games. I think we know who he is. And to me, I think that's a very good quarterback. Not elite. Probably will never be elite, but very good, particularly in this offense. I think that's the thing, is under Kyle Shanahan, within this system, when Brock Purdy's not trying to force things or be a hero, he's good. When everything's going the 49ers' way and he can run the system and doesn't have to come back from behind, Brock thrives. He's much better than Jimmy Garoppolo. That is no question. He's a mobile quarterback. He's very elusive in the pocket. He does a lot of things really well. He's a leader. He can read the defenses fairly well, particularly against the zone. That's where he thrives. He struggles a little bit in man, and he doesn't have the strongest arm. I think that's who Brock Purdy is in a nutshell. That's how I would describe him, and I think that's who he's going to be throughout his career.
Yeah. I think I know who he is too. And I think that's, I mean, he's a hell of a quarterback, but he's 6-6 this year. He's had some ups and downs. He did really well against the Bears. That team's in free fall mode. He got 15 touchdowns and 8 picks. That's not great. It's not bad. It seems like he's gonna, I mean, I think we're right about at the 50 game mark. We should know who he is. I think we do. He's a mobile quarterback. He's all the things you said. He not the best passer in the league, but he's a very good passer, and he's a playmaker. He's had some injuries, and I think it's clear he can't play in wet weather, which is alarming to me, because you can't avoid that just because you play in Northern California. First of all, it rains in Northern California, and you got to go to Green Bay in the playoffs. So, that's
it also rains game in Northern California too. Sorry, it does.
It's raining game in Northern California.
Yeah. Look, sorry to interrupt you, but I just felt like it was an appropriate time.
No, it's definitely appropriate. Look, here's the thing. Look at the Vikings. Okay, the Vikings are another really good team, really good roster, not really invested in a quarterback yet, kind of figuring out who they want to make their guy. They have Sam Darnold. He's having a great year. Statistically, a much better year than Brock Purdy. And the Vikings are like 27, having a great year. We kind of revitalized your career. There was a report yesterday that they may not even extend him. So yeah. I think they may, depending on what he does in the playoffs. But if the Vikings are looking at Darnold and his great numbers and thinking, yeah, but he's kind of a product of us, and maybe we shouldn't overreact, and maybe we could do this with Daniel Jones or JJ McCarthy, like, would they give Brock Purdy a 5-year deal worth $300 million? And if they wouldn't do it, then which team would do it? And is it a good move?
I think the only team that might do it would be the 49ers. I don't think the Vikings would do it. I think Kevin O'Connell is a little bit underrated. He saw what he could do with Darnold. I think he probably thinks he could do it with JJ McCarthy. He did it with Kirk Cousins, who's struggling without him as well. So I think the Vikings I think he's a little bit underrated as a coach up there. The thing with Brock is, like, we know he's good. He does lack arm strength, which is part of the reason I think he struggles against man. He struggles in wet weather. And even yesterday, with fantastic game for Brock Purdy. Fantastic. 3 underthrown passes, though, right? The one to Juice, one to Isaac Guerrero, one to Juwan Jennings. If you lead those guys, those are points you probably left on the board. With the Juwan Jennings ones, they were able to score afterwards. I'm not sure about the Kyle Juszczyk one or the Isaac Orindo one. I think they did. But either way, like those are passes that you want your quarterback to be able to make, hit them in stride so you can score. And those things are going to come up like in certain situations, in certain games. You're going to need that, see Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. Like you need to be able to pull that off. He also, to his own admission, missed Pearsall. But like that one doesn't bother me as much because I don't expect my quarterback to be perfect. It's why are you underthrowing guys like almost every game? Is it because you can't make the throw? I thought based on last year he couldn't make those throws, but this year it seems he's underthrowing quite often, and so that's a hindrance that also bothers me a little bit in Brock Purdy's game.
The Niners can give him a multi-year contract if they want, and I'm going to talk in a minute about how they could structure that. But to me, like whatever they do, they have to keep looking for a quarterback because again, Brock's very good, and you don't get rid of very good quarterbacks because they're hard to find. But you don't like stop looking for quarterbacks because you have a very good one. You're looking, you either have an elite quarterback or you're looking for an elite quarterback. And it's great to have a very good one while you're looking for an elite quarterback. But I think near 50 games in, we know that he's not an elite quarterback and he's not going to be one. Maybe I'm being harsh, but I think a guy with his limitations physically in wet weather, no, you're going to be capped at very good. So sure, you can give him a 5-year deal worth $250 million. We'll talk about that in a second. But you also have to draft a quarterback, and you have to be open-minded, and you have to be able to pivot to someone else if that guy's better.
I think that's absolutely correct, man. I think what you said is exactly correct. Brock is a good quarterback. He's never going to be elite, and he's limited because of his arm strength. It's the reason why he was drafted late. I mean, that's really his biggest problem. His weakness is in the weather. And his arm strength period, which it makes it harder in tight window throws against man coverage. And also you're underthrowing guys on a regular basis on these deep routes. That's really what I think is going to limit Brock, unfortunately. And when you are running an NFL organization, you need to find that guy. And Brock is very good, better than Jimmy. But he's not Joe Burrow. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Justin Herbert. So you got to keep looking also. But in the meantime, you got a really good quarterback.
Is he Jalen Hurts in the sense that a guy who's had a lot of success in a particular system, in a particular team, and probably wouldn't have that kind of success anywhere else, but on that particular team, he's valuable and he wins?
I think the system that Kyle runs, that a lot of other organizations run, like I think he'd do well in Miami. He would do well in certain systems that are. It's about getting the ball out quick and catching guys in stride. He's never going to be a deep passer or be able to, put the team on his shoulders. So in general, I think he's not going to be better in general on any other team as much as he is on the 49ers. But, like maybe in Miami, he might look like Tua does, Yeah.
What's a little concerning for me is that, like, I know wins aren't a quarterback stat, but it's sort of reflective of what a team can do with that quarterback. And he's 6-6 this year. Over the last 17 games, full season, he's 9-8. He's got a big game this Thursday. If he loses that, it'll be 9-9. Like, if the Niners are now a 500 team with Brock Purdy, I know it's not a quarterback stat, but if they're a 500 team with him at quarterback and it's been that way for more than a season, then what are you paying for? Like at least with Jalen Hurts, who we don't think he's elite either, they essentially win with him. So you can't really knock it, the fact that they're paying him because they keep winning. But with Brock, if they're not like necessarily winning like that anymore and they're losing as much as they're winning, then again, how are you justifying whatever justifying calling him the franchise quarterback and saying we're done. We're not looking for this position anymore.
I think we're going to get a clear picture of what the 49ers really think of Brock Purdy when the contract comes out. And I have a feeling that the contract is going to come out and it's going to sound amazing on the surface, like $250 million, 5 years. But really, when you dive into it, it's probably going to have like an out after the second year or maybe the third year. And if that's the case, that kind of speaks like how they really think of it. If they don't go all in, like, hey, 5-6 years, 4 years guaranteed, that kind of speaks on what they really think of Brock. So I think he's going to get his contract. He's going to get his extension, and it's going to look good on the surface. But when you dive into the details, it'll probably reveal what we're talking about, that they like Brock Purdy. They think he's really good, but not in that elite level, and probably won't be.
I think the structure, you can go look at it. It's like Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence are probably the structure for what Brock's going to get. It'll be like 5 years, $275 million, something just disgusting and outrageous. But then when you actually look at it, like the first year of the extension, his cap number will be something probably like reasonable, like 17, 18 million. And then the second year, it'll be like 24, 25, which isn't terrible. And then the third year, it'll be like 35, 36, which is a little more than you'd like, but still manageable. And then after that, it'll balloon in years 4 and 5. But that's when the guaranteed money runs out. And that's probably when you'd either cut the guy, trade the guy, or extend him. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there probably would be an out. And I don't think like, oh, he's making $55 million a year. Like, he'd never have a $55 million cap number. It would be relatively low for the first 3 years. So you could justify it that way. You could even call it team friendly, but still, like, you got to draft a quarterback. You're not done there.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. I think I really do. And, I really like Brock, the person. And he's fun to watch, man. He is a playmaker. 49ers football is so much more enjoyable with him at quarterback versus Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think, the limitations are there, and that just hints at some point, we got to find that dude. Like, he's not Steve Young. He's not Joe Montana. Not that anyone is, but that's the goal.
You just don't want to settle in life and football. I mean, again, look at Minnesota. They're balling. They're winning every week. Sam Darnold's putting up crazy numbers, and they're like, we're going to have to see a little bit more, Sam. Sorry. We have very high standards and expectations here. And that's the right move for them. Like, the Niners need to sort of have that same mentality. Like, look, Brock, you've done a lot of great stuff for us, man. There was a stretch where we couldn't lose with you on the field, but, we're 500 with you over the last calendar year, and your numbers aren't as good as Sam. Like, we're not winning with you. Your numbers aren't off the charts anymore. Some weeks it is, some weeks it's not. It's hard for us to justify calling you our franchise quarterback when
they'll tell him he is.
Water.
They'll tell him he is, and they won't say any of that, but their actions will say that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It'd be interesting though, like, if they gave him the extension 4 or 5 years and then drafted a quarterback in round 1. That's what Atlanta did this year. I mean, it's been done. It's just everyone ridiculed Atlanta all year. And what message would that send to Brock Purdy if you did it? Like, hey, you're our guy. Psych. Psych. Sorry.
They need. I mean, I think
not.
I think competition needs to be. I mean, unless you're one of those 5 guys I mentioned, you should have somebody behind you over your back trying to take your spot. I think that's good for players. It brings out the best of them, having competition behind you. So I think they need to do that.